Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I am here with my friend Dyal Gobinde Singh, whom I met at Satnam Yoga Studio, Kundalini Yoga in Chicago. And I immediately took a liking to Dyal because I could see his deep discipline and courage and his understanding of the Sikh Dharma and the path of that and of Kundalini yoga. And I can just see his dedication to his path and to his spiritual practice. So thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Sadnam, brother, thank you so much too.
Satnam.
Love, appreciate all you said, and yeah, I'm really grateful to know you and to have met you there as well, and to be on the same path with you, similar path like this.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that really is the first thing I wanted to ask you is what brought you to the path that you're on now when you got into Kundalini yoga and the Sikh Dharma and everything?
Whew. Yeah, so my life took a 180, like many lives do. I had a spiritual awakening and a Kundalini disturbance, or what people call Kundalini awakening, Kundalini activation, when I was 19 and 20. And so before that, I was run of the mill, ordinary person in society. And then after that, I recognized there was a spiritual reality, and took up the spiritual path.
Mm.
And it wasn't long after until I found Kundalini yoga. And then a couple years into that, I found the Sikh Dharma, which, I'm not quite Sikhi, but I do enough of the practices where they think people may consider me to be Sikh. And even like Sikh people themselves will think that I'm Sikhi and think of me that way. So yeah,
Ah,
I
yes.
love this Dharma. I love Kundalini yoga, and I love everything about the Sikh faith as well.
Is that picture behind you? Is that Guru Ramdas or Guru Nanak?
Ramdas, yeah, Guru
Guru
Ramdas.
Ramdas.
Yeah,
Guru Ramdas, which is one of the Sikh gurus, right?
yeah, the fourth Sikh Guru. Yeah.
So when you had this Kundalini awakening spontaneously, was that you didn't do anything to bring that about? It just happened and then you started on your path, or you were doing practice that brought that about?
I'd been through a lot of trauma when I was 18 and 19, and I went to a music festival, and then I took ecstasy for the first and only time. And so that relaxed me and connected me really deep to the soma, the body, and the bliss. And then all of a sudden, this energy just started spiraling, and my third eye
Wow.
blasted open. But there were a number of phenomena leading to that. And then I was just dancing all night. And then for weeks and months after, like there was definitely a shift in my life, and things weren't the same anymore. And I couldn't go back to who I was, the habits, and the lifestyle just naturally kind of.
Yes, yes. No, it's interesting because I know sometimes people have experiences like that or awakenings and maybe don't really understand what they are and go back to how they were living before, but you clearly ran with it and took that into your life and into your practice. So then how did you come to like what appealed to you and brought you to Kundalini yoga into the Sikh Dharma?
Well, then, like about a half month later, kind of the honeymoon, the bliss phase was starting to fade, and I needed a way to kind of work and integrate with the energy that had arisen. And I looked up Kundalini yoga in Chicago, and I found a yoga studio. And right away, I knew it was a path for me. The very first class, I knew I wanted to be an instructor, which within a year and a half, I would take a teacher training. At the teacher training, I would, come into contact with people who were sick. And then even before that, within the classes, we do the mantras. A lot of the mantras come from that um, faith and the Gurumukhi, the script, the language. Um, and yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the practice is the mantra meditations. I do that every day now. I read Japji. Uh, I listen to the Banis. It's just such a sacred faith along with the vibration, the sound current, which speaks to like my awakening was through music, through sound, through dance. And I think a lot of us,
Uh,
recognize the universality of vibration and sound, and that's what the faith is all about.
yes, I my favorite part, or my main practice in life right now is also is working with mantra and sound. And of course, that was how I found the Sikh tradition too, was through the Kundalini, the mantras mainly. But can you talk to us a little more about the power of those mantras and the nod, the sound current, like what that means, how to connect with that?
Yeah, wow, let's open that one up. Uh, I mean, it's, I guess there's vibration. All is vibration. We say ek onkar, it's all one vibrating divinity. And we can connect with that from within out. And we connect with the original vibration, spanda, through the sound current. We still the waves of thought and come to their origin, where those waves come from. And we reach the creative infinite identity through the repetition, the japa, the repetition of the mantra, cultivates the psychic heat that then purifies the seeds of karma and allows one the liberty of the Dharma and being attuned to that path. And I can't, it's my favorite. I love to, even before Kundalini Yoga, I was already doing the Bij mantras to each of the chakras, and I was working with that.
Yes.
And still to this day, it's the cornerstone of my practice is chanting early in the morning and setting the tone, tuning my instrument, my body.
I was just reading, yes, thank you. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth this morning,
Mm,
and he was saying the power of man is hidden in the word. The
yes.
word contains like the power of the universe.
Yes, I
Yeah.
actually have this the book here. It's just in reach because it's at my desk. God,
Oh,
man,
that's incredible.
the Word made flesh. And I have a lot of books about sound and vibration and the word, and how we literally we speak ourselves into existence, we think ourselves into existence, and we're living it. So
Yes. And
yeah,
there's so many levels, right, of mantra that can be done outwardly or can be done in the heart. And in a sense, you could also just listen silently, right? Once you get in deep enough, listen to the nod, listen to the sound around, right?
thank you. Yes, deeply listening. There's nothing quite like it. Yeah. It's like every sound, even, the mechanical sounds of the city, it has a medicine, and when we're so deeply attuned to the inner reality and the inner truth and
Mm.
medicine, then it's like even those sounds are healing. Nothing can jar one out of that. It all has a message, a teaching.
Even the sounds from the outer world are healing.
Well, yeah, I mean, nature, of course, natural ones, but then
Yeah,
even ones that aren't of nature that are more man-made, they it's not without reason, it's not without purpose, and it all has its
because they're still God too. They're still
yeah,
that echo and car
exactly.
too.
It all has its healing and its teaching and reflection for us. Um, yeah, it's and ideally, we chant from that meditative, deep listening place, and we're chanting free from our ego and um, yeah, just being a vessel for the sound current.
Yes, yes, I love that. That's a big thing with chanting too, is I know it was for me, and I noticed for a lot of people it at some point has to take you beyond the ego, because at first it could be a little people could be self-conscious, or we could be worried about what we sound like. And I remember Krishna Das, the kirtan singer, that's probably the most well-known kirtan singer in the world. He said what inspired him was when he first heard Yogananda's um chanting years ago. He said he was just singing to God. He wasn't worried about, and it was funny because you could hear Yogananda's voice. He'd be like, "I, Paramahansa Yogananda, am praying. Pray with
Yeah.
me," and like that. But he was just in the
I love
spirit.
those audio clips. I love those audio clips of him, yeah.
That's beautiful. So yeah, the Sikh faith is and the Kundalini is a lot around the mantra and the sound, but also how you said listening. I just did a recording where I read through the Japji, and it was such a deep study for me, like a practice just to keep as I was going through it and asking for Guru Nanak's guidance and really trying to connect with the essence of it. And one of the parts I remember the most, if you just had to ask me as far as the English translation, is the deep listening. And
Mhm.
he says, I remember how he says, with deep listening, even lost, you'll find your way. And so I was wondering if you could say a little bit about the deep listening that they speak of.
Sure, I mean, it's like we've been touching on, and I think, I love, at the end of a meditation, at the end of mantra chanting, especially mantra chanting, then deeply listening, and it's so still. Any thought that comes through is so direct and clear and guiding, and it's just a emptiness, and in that vast emptiness, of course, something arises to listen to, whether it be birds or dogs barking, um, the wind in the trees. Yeah, with deep listening, all pain and sorrow depart. That's the line
Mm.
he ends those 4 verses with, and yeah, it's like, being attuned and humble and surrender to what is the reality that's vibrating in this now moment, ever and ever, and, being true to it, listening, living with that, from the inside out, um, and, the antar guru, the inner guru, the soul, humbling our ego, mind, thinking to a deeper voice, more subtle, softer whisper, when we need to, when we meditate.
Yeah, and
Deep
I've always admired that. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say
no,
something
just
else?
deeply listening, that's all.
Yeah. I had always seen that quality in you too, the calmness, but also the discipline in your practice and everything, which I think is important for us to touch on too, the sadhana itself, because sometimes in the world we in our egos can like to contemplate things or hear about them or listen to this and say, oh, what that guy said sounds cool, like it makes sense. But then you speak what you're speaking of here is a truth that you have to find for yourself through putting these things into practice, through like consistency.
Yeah, within, yeah. Like, each to our own, we have our own life, our own dharma, our own path. No,
Yes.
that's universal, but there's no universal one path. There's many paths.
Yes.
Um, for every heart, probably there's one path, and
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
the best teachers are the ones who will point you to that, and then you can be free from that teacher, and be your own teacher, and still return. Um, be a friend to one another. Yeah, it's that's what we have to befriend, is that inner light, the
The
Atman,
inner light.
the soul. Yeah.
There's right in the beginning of the Japji here too, this version says you think and think 10,000 thoughts, but not one thought will give you what you seek. And
So
then a couple lines, go ahead.
Soche Soch Nahove, Je Sochi Lakvar. Yeah,
That's how it is. That's what it is.
in the Gurumukhi. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that is something that's been, maybe you can touch on, that's definitely been a theme in my practice the last year, realizing, having the awareness to realize there's so many, the thoughts are, they're drama, they're storylines, and it could go down them endlessly, but really there's very little fruit in it most of the time. And I think kind of point to that. You can think, but it will never bring us to what we're looking for.
Yeah, that sounds true. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, what surrender, that's the one thing, bowing the head and head below the heart, head to the earth. We're always upright and directed and focused and running,
Mm.
analyzing, processing, taking in intel and info, all this energy running through the head. Um, but that's what yoga's for, that's what the asana, that's what the bandhas. I mean, started with the 8 limbs, that's what the yamas and niyamas are for, like living, taking right action in life and being clear with life so that we're not preoccupied and stressed overly. And then, yeah, I mean, especially the bandhas, I tell students all the time, like, that's those still the waves of thought. Like you pressurize the system and then release, and then you do that throughout a class again and again, and you meditate, and it's so easy, it's so accessible. A lot of the times students who are beginners or never practiced Kundalini yoga or don't meditate much, and even like in the opening guided meditation before tuning in, as well as throughout the class, warming up, doing the kriyas, we find like deep meditation and deep stillness and the subtlety of uh, vibration and the sound current, the shabad. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Shabad guru, like the sound current is the teacher. Um, Sound as the teacher. Pavan guru, breath as the teacher, air as the teacher. Everything can be the guru, and just like keep the mind honed, disciplined.
Right. So all of really everything we run into, all of the elements like earth, air, fire, water, the sun, the stars, all of it can be the teacher. I was just reading a book about just a man that part of his practice, like communing with the trees, communing with everything in his practice. I love when I go to Karam Paul's classes at Satnam, I'll notice exactly what you said. I can at the very start of class just pulling in the bandhas at the root and the diaphragm and at the neck lock, um, with just a couple breaths, I can already be in stillness and silence no matter where I came from, just breathing with that, which is really incredible that we have that system so readily available in our own body, that all of the universe is contained in this body is incredible.
Yeah. Keeper of grace, Karan Paul. Grateful for her as a teacher and a friend, leader and director of the studio Satnam. Yeah.
Me too. Very grateful for her. Very grateful. You said about bowing the head, bowing down in humility. And it reminded me, if you wanted to tell us the story I know you've told before about Guru Ramdas and I
Yeah.
think Baba Sari Chand meeting.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you can see back there. It's a little
Yes.
kissed by the light, but brother's got a very long beard. And yeah, so him and this other man, Baba Siddhi Chand, who was a master of yoga and the son of Guru Nanak, the first guru, Guru. So Baba Siddhi Chand started hearing about this Guru Ramdas, and everyone's praising Guru Ramdas. Oh, what a saint, what a guru. And people were talking about him, said he's the king. So Baba Siddhi Chand was the king of the yogis. He said, well, I have to go meet this guy. Like, let me see what he's about. And so he, starts this long trek through India from the mountains down to the city where Guru Ramdas was. And then Guru Ramdas hears he's coming, and so, well, I'll go to meet him. So he starts trekking toward him as well. And then, they meet in the forest, perhaps. I don't know exactly all the details of the story, but they meet, let's say, halfway. And when they met, Guru Ramdas, got on his knees and he cleaned his feet with his beard. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And so then immediately, Baba Sri Chand said, you're the real king of the yogis. I recognize you and the authority as the guru. And Um, he just saw what a man of humility and great spirit he was, and that's how Guru Ram Das is known, for his humility, for his service, and yeah, that's one of many stories of the Sikh gurus. And there's each guru has at least one, if not many stories. Yeah,
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. And it also makes me think of service of seva, which I know at Satnam Yoga in Chicago is important. And what I've learned is that that is a spiritual path into itself, just like doing the physical asanas and breath work and mantra, that we also can purify ourselves through selfless service and sometimes called karma yoga and gain
Dharma yoga, yeah.
humility that way. And do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, karma yoga is king, because it puts one into the world of action, the material realm, and if you have the right attitude of service, of humility, without attachment to any outcomes, and you're just living like that in service with faith to, be reciprocated by one another and by the universe, then yeah, it's like a very resolving of karma, because you're in that realm of action, but you're not attached to it. And that's
Mm,
Bhagavad Gita. Krishna recommends, you have to fight the battle, of life. You have to
yes.
be on the side of the conflict, and um, you have to do your duty. You have to live your life, what you're here for, whatever that may be. You have to work through the karma and live your dharma therein.
Work through the karma and live your dharma. I love that.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's incredible. I remember when I first read the Bhagavad Gita 8 years ago, it was what started me on my spiritual path when I was in a rehab center and somebody gifted me. They didn't give me that book, but they gave me a book by a monk and all it talked about was reading the Gita, so I got it as soon as I got out. But I remember how hard when I read it at first, I thought, wow, this is easy. I'm just going to devote everything I do to Krishna all the time and without attachment and no problem. And then now 8 years later, seeing how just challenging those things are to put into practice, like finally tasting some of the fruits and being able to implement deeper and see, wow, like that's what he was talking about. Where like I read it then and I understood it, but the going from the head to the heart and really living and just having to do the work to be able to cut through some attachments, some expectations so that everything I'm doing in the world isn't me all of the time. And yeah, it's a process, definitely.
Yeah, service to others. That's sick. That's what they teach as well. It's very serviceful. Um, the idea of wearing the turban in part is so that people can recognize you for someone that they can count on for support, for
Mm.
assistance.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And I
And
mean, think you think of like the langar, and gurdwaras, Sikh temples all over the world. They serve meals to everyone. You know, tens of thousands of people daily are fed at Sikh gurdwaras. And at the Golden Temple alone,
yes.
it's like 10,000 every day.
That's incredible. Yeah, and that's another reason I wanted to interview you. I am going to the Golden Temple
God bless.
in about 2 months. So
Wow.
I'm really much looking forward to that. Yeah. And I do go to the Gurdwara out here once in a while. I've been there a couple times and they do feed me and then I just sit and meditate while they chant from the Japji. It's very beautiful.
In Indiana or in Chicago?
In Indiana, there's one
Oh,
about
no.
10 minutes from my house. Lucky
Awesome.
enough.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It the Japji, so for people listening, I was just reading a little bit in English, but can you talk a little bit about because chanting it is supposed to be very powerful, right? Especially chanting it in Gurmukhi in the original language.
Yeah, in the code of Gurmukhi, it's more of a sacred sound current than perhaps English.
Right.
very closely derived from Sanskrit. And in our Kundalini yoga sadhana, our daily practice discipline, we a lot of us chant japji every morning before we tune in and begin the yoga practice. And it's 40 stanzas, and it begins. Um, well, we say that there's 8 chakras in our yoga tradition. The aura is the eighth, and then the primary seven, and then of course there's 5 tattvas, 5 elements primarily recognized. And so we say that 8 by 5, that's 40. And so we say the first stanza starts with the aura and the ether element. And then stanza by stanza, you just start grounding in that divine spirit. And each,
Wow.
yeah, each stanza has its own uh, purpose or meaning, significance, teaching, healing that it's working on. And you can like do 11 repetitions, or I really just do like the 40. And some of them are
Oh yeah, you
similar.
could do one part of it, you're saying, or you could do the whole 40.
Yeah, like a lot of people will choose to do one verse and then chant that. Maybe it means something special for them at that time, or they want to work with that quality.
Right, right. And I think in the Kundalini book that I had studied in our teacher training, each, like you were just alluding to or saying, each one has its own power in a sense. Each
Its own
line has
power.
its own power.
Yeah,
So do you chant that every day?
I do. Yeah, most days. Yeah, yeah. And then we
Yeah.
chant it a tantric style too, where it'll be the men, and then we'll chant one line, and the women will chant the next line, and that's equally
Oh,
powerful, if not more powerful, because then you're also listening, and then it's a feedback, and um, so then you're deeply listening, and then you're chanting as well.
that's incredible. And just the masculine and feminine energies, probably kind of that interplay too,
Yeah,
which
polarity.
also, yeah, the polarity. And where did the Japji is the intro to the Guru Granth Sahib, basically, right? And or Guru Nanak spoke it himself, right?
Yes. So the story goes that Guru Nanak was 3 days submersed in water, which isn't unheard of. He was having some enlightenment
Yes.
experience and was came out of that basically with bars and with this beautiful song of the soul, and shared it. And people recognized, okay, he's undergone some transformation. And then he would share the sound current throughout India, throughout the neighboring countries. He would just walk. That was his dharma, to walk and to sing. He would also he was like attuned to people's karma. So like when he would approach people, he could sense their karma, their energy in the field, and then he could like sing the song for healing for that person.
Hmm.
And then he taught the Japji for just people to come together and to chant this song of the soul, Japji Sahib. And then people stuck with that for now going on 500, 600 years. And still to this day, it's spreading, more and more people chanting Japji.
Yeah. So in a sense, he came out of this water in an enlightened state, and this was what came through him, right? From that, this is what he spoke then, and I could
Yeah,
just picture the significance of that, the energy of that, obviously reverberating, as you said, down the line hundreds and hundreds of years. And
yeah,
so then he would just wander around India in a sense, right? Like
mhm,
chanting to God, singing to God, and walking around.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's precious because it's, from his mouth, from the word of someone who just had that experience fresh out of that. Whereas, masters like Jesus or Buddha, they never wrote anything. We don't really have many of the direct transmissions, even perhaps.
Yes.
But this one, not only do we have it, but it's also very recent, 500 years ago or so. Um, and so then that was his song. He wrote other ones, other words. Those are also in the Siri Guru Granth Sahib. but yeah, so the Sri Guru Granth Sahib is like 1,400 or so pages, and the pages are very big. So in other books, other a few thousand pages, but then like the first uh, 30 pages are Japji Sahib,
The first 30 pages
something
of the
like that.
Guru
Yeah,
Granth.
20, 30. Yeah.
And that is, you study that book, the Guru Granth Sahib?
So I read it. I read it at the Gurdwara in New Mexico, as well as at the summer and winter solstice, New Mexico and Florida, respectively. I read it there, just like an hour or two or three over the course of a few days. And other people are signed up to read it, and we read the whole thing through in 72 hours. It's a long read, so we take turns. I'm in a group now, actually, where we're reading it, and I'm just reading it online. So it's accessible there, and we're kind of taking turns and following through there.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the Guru Granth Sahib is now the guru in Sikhi, right? There was 10 gurus, and then the book itself is the current guru. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, he said, no more hu- gurus, no more human gurus. We'll just have the book is now the guru. It's all there. It's all in the sound current. Sing this, chant this, come together, protect these holy vibrations, the holy book, um, and yeah, have that be the guru. And we they obviously care greatly for that book, and they keep it covered with very fine cloth. Even like when we're escorting it from one temple to another, we'll carry like swords, just like they did in the old school. Um,
Wow.
and it becomes very qualified, because a lot of love and attention is for this book. And of course, it's filled with the scripts. People are chanting from it. It's just very beautiful and divine. And in any Gurdwara, there's, if it's held by the Sangha, the Sangat, and the Dharma is strong, then it's a very qualified space. You can feel it whenever you walk into the temple, the Gurdwara, qualified.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's beautiful. I can't wait to be in the presence of the book in Amrit Star. What is so the aim of all of it, right? The tradition and the practice, what would you say it is? Would you say liberation, freedom of the soul, purification of the karma, waking up to one's true nature, to what we really are, to oneness with all things? Or how would you say what you're working towards or what your sadhana is for?
Satnam, I think, keep it
Satnam,
keep it simple.
truth's our identity.
Truth, yeah. Yeah, living in that truth as its instrument. Yeah, Ekоnkar,
Yes.
being one with the all. And then Waheguru, just the indescribable, ecstatic state of being united with that.
Waheguru.
Waheguru, yeah.
Sorry, it just makes me when I hear it, it just makes me smile. But you're saying what is it? The ecstatic union?
Yep, beyond words.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing about words, right? They are good for pointing, but we have to experience ourself and words cannot contain.
Yeah, it's what it's pointing to, right? It's the sun and not the finger,
Yes, yes.
or the moon and not the finger.
Oh man, that's beautiful. So what is your life like right now? What is your practices like right now?
So I've got a very strong sadhana at the moment. I'm very grateful for that, to myself and to these teachings. So being very disciplined, waking up in the AM quite early. I'm also leading sadhana for a group of people, um, and then teaching a lot of Kundalini yoga. So staying in my practice with that, practicing some massage therapy, specifically craniosacral therapy at the moment.
Mm.
I live in a small studio apartment in the city of Chicago. I'm born from Evanston, just north, so I'm very close to my family here and my spiritual sangha, my spiritual family. the family I've chosen, my friends, it's being connected with really good people here.
You just went somewhere, didn't you, for Kundalini too, like to Spain?
Yes. To France, actually. That was in, the summer, and that was for the European Yoga Festival. So another one of the practices from our tradition is the white tantric yoga,
Mm,
which I don't know if
yeah.
you've had the pleasure of doing yet.
I have not. I wanted to
Right.
ask you about it here.
Yeah, so I did 1 day, or we did a day in Chicago last year at the end of April. We did a day, maybe like a few days kind of with, these other practices at the summer solstice in New Mexico, and then I just really wanted to do 3 days as soon as possible, so I went to France where they do 3 days, and then we just did 3 days here in Florida of that practice, and yeah, I find it to be, challenging, of course, but Uh, it's very healing and beautiful, polarity magic there.
Looking into eyes, right?
Yeah, so locking eyes for a lot of the time. Sometimes the eyes are closed, but then holding like very difficult postures with the arms for like 62 minutes or
Oh
30
my
minutes.
god.
And I mean, I'm very challenged and I revel in that. I feel so strong after. I mean, before in the days before, you're also doing a lot of Kundalini yoga. There's a Gurdwara, so there's a lot of the services, and the guru is there, and so there's a lot of chanting and praying, and just loving community. That's really the
Mm.
core. We say Wahe Guruji Ka Khalsa, Wahe Guruji Ki Fateh. It's like the victory, ecstasy of us belongs to our community, all of our strength, all of our victories, and our community, all of it belongs we belong to God. So all of it's like
Ah.
giving praise and glory to togetherness and to the one that, calls us together like this. So I can't speak enough for the strength of this Sangat, here in the United States, here in Chicago, there in Europe, and then worldwide. Kundalini yoga is a very strong practice and some very strong practitioners, and I'm grateful for us. Very happy that you did our teacher training and you're sharing these teachings and giving some really good healing, especially for people who need it, for people who are in recovery. Um, so thank you a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been an honor. I'm so grateful to teach it. And I don't discriminate in the practices I do. So whatever spirit guides me that I find that works. And then I found Kundalini yoga and I was like, wow, this is after many, many years of doing other forms of yoga, which I'll still go to hot yoga in my personal practice and stuff. But I found that there was really so inclusive with the asana, the mantra, the breath work, the meditation, just combined together can really can do a lot. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
powerful. And real quick, I just wanted to touch on that. The tantric where you look into the eyes, it's male and female. Is that why you said the polarity is
yeah.
powerful?
Usually it's done like that, although it need not be. I've seen men do it with men. A lot of times women do it with women. But then like there'll be like a line, so you're holding down the masculine or you're holding down the feminine in one or the other lines. So sometimes it's a call and response. Um, I've only done it with women or people who are gender neutral.
That's beautiful. Hopefully, I'll get to go to one with you one day.
Chicago, brother, end of April. And then please, I invite you, I invite anyone who's called to this to come to the solstices. That's really where the Dharma the path really strengthens for one.
I'll have to talk. Yeah, end of April, I will unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I will be in India at that time. So I knew I'd had to miss that one. But yes, the solstices are, can you tell us real quick?
Yeah, so summer solstice is in New Mexico. It's about a week. Um, Sadhana, 3:40 a.m. Classes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Breakfast, lunch, dinner is served. There's the Sikh Gurdwara services, kirtan. It's just
Hmm.
lovely. lovely. We and it's up in the mountains, the high mountain desert in New Mexico. Yeah, it's lovely, lovely.
Wow, that's incredible. You'll be there again this summer?
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it. It's just the intensive, I have an intense practice here at home, but then to like intensify that even more, and then I feel so empowered to be back. So I'm fresh. I'm still like fresh back a month and a half ago from the last one, and it gets better and better, and harder and harder. It's challenging. It's love, it's like cracks you open. The tantra, the yoga, but it's great, great healing therein.
Yeah, I can thank you so much. I can feel your spirit and your love as you speak about it and the truth of that path and just the dharma that emanates from you. So yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us at all before we finish?
Um, I'm not. I can't really speak the best for the Sikh tradition, the Sikh faith. I'm not Punjab. I'm not from there. I'm new to this Dharma myself. Some, 6, 7, 8 years, but I've discovered the Guru in my heart, and that was when I chose to get my name, Dyal Gobind Singh. Maybe it's
Courageous lion who supports and protects others through embodying God's celestial compassion and grace in the world. That
yeah,
describes you pretty perfectly,
a
I
bit
would say.
much, the grace of God. So I like to go by Lawrence and honor my mother Kathy like that as well. But um, you know, I I was really touched by the Guru and by the sound current and by the Sangha, the Dharma and by God, and so that was when I chose to take the step to get my spiritual name. And yeah, it speaks deeply, deeply to me. And I just prayed to live in service and humility to that. And this path of Sikh and Kundalini yoga, I think, is a really good one for that and for me personally. And, if it's the same for you, Alex, or the same for any of your listeners, just, stay in touch, keep in touch. And yeah, really look forward to however this continues with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex.
Sat Nam to you.
Satnam, brother. Waheguru.
Wahe Guru.